Get them fired up and get them to the staging lanes, baby, because 8th Mile Apparel is now carrying Glowing Bracket Racing merch. Hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and much more can be yours today by visiting 8thmileapparel.com. We appreciate each and every one of you guys supporting the Glowing Bracket Racing YouTube and Facebook pages.
What's up, everybody? Casey and George back here November 5th, 2024. We couldn't get up with you last week because George had a flood in his yard, but this is episode 175 on the What Might Be End of the World podcast. We never know.
Oh, crap.
But it's one of those times of year. The world's always ending. But we're going to bring you some drag racing action here tonight whenever everybody else is flipping out. So at least we have some sort of positivity in the world today. But we always got to thank those people that get this all going for you and keep it free on YouTube and Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube to get in our free giveaways. TSR Racing Products. Contact them for your freshen ups on your Power Glides, Turbo 350s, 400s, 727s. We know that those Power Glide Planetarians are getting worn out right now, and you need to put some new ones in. You need to call TSR and get some of those BRG 3D printed parts. Anything that you need for your race car, anything you want for your ride, Brian Garrett will print that stuff up for you and get those custom parts out to you in the mail. Makes good Christmas presents. It's that time of the year as well. Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas. You need any banners for your shop, you need anything for your business, you go into PRI, need anything printed up, stickers, shirts, brochures, contact Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas. Driven Racing Oil. It's cold outside. We all know everybody who's running methanol doesn't want that moisture in that oil. Driven Racing Oil makes that GP1. You can use the code GBR10. Get yourself 10% off your order and race till your heart's content in those cold temperatures and not have to worry about it so much. I'm telling you, if you need to clean stuff up for the year, you need to get that speed clean. I'm telling you, it makes those white trailers look brand new after you let them sit under the tree all summertime long because it was too hot to wash them. Driven Racing Oil has got you in order. GBR10. Get yourself 10% off. Proform Parts. Visit ProformParts.com to check out all of those free giveaway parts that we're giving all the way through to 2025. We got the person we're going to announce a little while later towards the end of the show. You're going to have to really stay tuned in so you can see if you won that high torque mini starter. But we pulled that last week, planning on giving it away last week. We're going to give it away this week. Same person is out there anyway. So you still won the starter. We had you pulled. You were just staying in suspense. But ProformParts.com, shop tools, carburetors, alternators, starters, radiators, accessories, all kinds of stuff over there on ProformParts.com. Check them out. Crew Chief Pro software. When the weather changes, you need Crew Chief Pro. Contact Don Higgins over there at CrewChiefPro.com and get you a copy of the Crew Chief Pro software. Newest updates always coming out to you. Getting the dial in order. And, of course, support Casey and George over there. Go to 8thmileapparel.com. Get your shirts, get your hoodies for that changing weather, get your hats. We got all kinds of stuff coming out, but you definitely can go over to 8thmileapparel.com. I don't know if you could stuff a shirt in a stocking, but I would say they'd make good stocking stuffers or good Christmas presents in general. So 8thmileapparel.com, get your GBR merch. George,
what's up?
What's new?
Nothing. At
Get
all.
that yard to where you don't have a swimming pool out there?
Yeah, I just don't like paying somebody to come out and do something I know I can do myself. You know what I mean, man? Same way we do it with race cars. If we can fix it, we're going to do our best to try it. Maybe watch a YouTube video or something. Either that or I'll just call Aaron Jones. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. Oh, Aaron, AA Ron only lives about 15 minutes from here. That's the one that helped me put my
put my converter in, and then we found out I didn't have the right input shaft. So, good call to TSR Racing Products. They had one on my doorstep in like a day and a half or something. That was pretty stellar. But yeah, Casey, man, nothing going on. Everything's fixed in the yard. My bad for having us miss an episode of GBR, and not necessarily putting us behind, because I think we can talk about anything bracket racing at any given point. You know how that goes. But not being able to be on and talk with y'all, that I kind of missed out on that. Seems like the week ain't complete without an episode of GBR, in my opinion, Case.
Oh yeah, man. Especially like I said, this time of year, everything's slowing down. Weather's cooling off. I know there's a lot of people that haven't been able to go racing. I know there were some Canadians out at Galat Motorsports Park this weekend, so we know that they probably haven't been able to race for a little while. But ultimately, man, it's that time of year. There's still a lot of racing out here by me. We got the all-door car race here in a couple weeks at Galat. We got Piedmont having the double 20s, I think, twin 20s. Kohlberg took over to fill back in for everything else. So that'll be on Thanksgiving, as always, on Motor Mania TV. And then ultimately, man, I guess, you know, something I always look forward to. It's not necessarily bracket racing, but they got snowbirds starting in down in Bradenton first week in December. I know there was a blue Camaro went what was going to be probably the first 300-mile-an-hour door slammer pass. He supposedly is building a car specifically for that. So I'll be interested to see if that goes on. But the point is, we have a ton of racing. Drag Illustrated's putting on a ton of stuff over the wintertime. So we'll be watching some heads-up stuff. We got the Midi Million from Folk Promotions. Is going to be down there in Florida, I believe, at Bradenton. So we got a ton of stuff going on, man. The racing season doesn't stop anymore. Gainesville, that's right.
There you go.
But yeah, racing season doesn't stop anymore, so it's always better and better for all of us and everybody watching this program.
Yeah, this channel will be full of at least one more live stream as well, with the Pennington race coming up here at Extreme Raceway Park. Here, I think it's November 21st is the first day. And I better look at my calendar to make sure, as I'm going to be out there streaming that. Me and my wife will go out and set up shop and give you 3 days worth of drag racing out here in the good old state of Texas. Extreme Raceway Park is an awesome track. If you've never seen it, you definitely want to chime in and get a look at what I would call the ultimate pro mod launch pad. I bet it's similar to Galat, Casey, as far as for smoothness and track layout altogether, in my opinion. But yeah, so there's a lot, like Casey said, there's a lot going on. So a lot to watch. It's about to get cold. I know Mo's done for the year, and that's unfortunate, because I'd much rather be racing, if you know what I mean.
Man, I gotta say that as well. I've had a lot of stuff going on. My car has been out, and I gotta give a quick shout out to old Dylan Champion. Champ did not too bad over there at the first annual FTR promotions. FTR events, I believe, is actually what they call it over there at Fletcher's first race. I know it's not just him involved, but I know obviously Dan and Tim are kind of the heads of that whole deal. But I think Robert Domino, and I'm sorry for the T. I feel like it's Tommy. I can't remember what your last name is. But anyway, great job out there. I didn't hear any complaints about that whole deal. One entry, one driver, one car. And as I always say on this channel, I feel like anytime that you see that happen, you see different people in the winner's circle. Also, shout out Thomas Davis going to the final round of that event. Thomas turned into a really good driver here in the last couple of years, man, and he's learning that car. Yellow Camaro, you better pay attention whenever you're next to him. But old Dylan didn't do too bad, man. Got down to 11 cars there. You know, ultimately everybody picked up that particular round, and everybody broke out. Lost to Donald Webb, great racer out here. People forget that Donald Webb, he's a local racer to the rest of us, but he reminds me, I shouldn't say he reminds me of Danny Waters, because Danny Waters should remind you, I guess, of Donald Webb, because Donald Webb's older. But, well, now that I say that, I hope that I'm not wrong, or Donald might be mad at me. Danny might be laughing. But either way, the fact of the matter is, Donald Webb's a couple-time world championship winner in IHRA hot rod class. So, definitely no slouch and somebody you would expect to see down there. But Dylan was under, Donald was under a little less next to him, and Donald kept on moving on. So congratulations to everybody out there. Great race, great event. Wish I could have participated myself. Glad my car was out there. Glad that I saw my buddy go deep. And I'm glad Uncle Tony got to be there with him the day that he did good. So it was cool all around. I know Brooke got to be there with him too. So I know that meant a lot to old Dylan. So glad to see everybody doing well. I'm going to send the car. Actually, I'll send the car back with Matthew Medlin and see what we can do still at the door slammer race at Galat and then at the foot brake race at Piedmont. So hopefully a car comes back with a bag of money in it. It's what I'm hoping.
Hey, yeah, no, shout out, Shem. Definitely good job out there, man. And you always got to get those experience points, bro. And I think you picked up a few experience points, especially off the top. If you guys don't know, Dylan's a foot breaker. He doesn't get to run off the top very often at all. I know he may be wanting to change that here pretty soon, but I'm not sure he's got the correct combination for his car to do so yet. So that says something to go out to Galat at a event that's put on by an up-and-coming promoter, which I hope to get on this show pretty soon, Casey, by the way. We got to try to talk to those guys, being their new since that was their first race to the promotion side or the event side of the game. But special shout out Dylan Champion, man. Way to go. Those knee knockers, those create a little bit of resilience, brother. So good job gaining it.
Absolutely, man. Let's you know who I want to have on this show actually is somebody who's highly involved with Dan's whole promotion there, because we've had Dan on already, and I'd love to have Dan on again. I'd like to have Tim Fletcher on. Tim, I know you're probably going to end up hearing this, so get a hold of me some way, shape, or form, and we'll get you on here at some point, talk about FTR promotions and some of the stuff, because I know Tim works a lot with the Fling series too behind the scenes. So I would like to know a little bit more about that. You know, obviously we always like to have all the promoters on during the wintertime, talk about things that are coming up in the next year, and talk about kind of how things work behind the scenes, because I know the promoters always get bashed on, and you can't make everybody happy, but ultimately, if there isn't somewhere to race and someone to promote, then we have nowhere to go. So even the worst event promotion is better than nothing.
True.
You know, ultimately. True. So
yeah.
I just wish people would realize that time to time, because you know how I feel, George. When we were growing up, we were in the time zone where at the time just the age in our lives where we remember whenever all the tracks shut down because of the financial crisis, the real one, not the one that just happened, the real one. And people legitimately didn't have any money and all the tracks shut down. And we were driving 5 hours to Indy to go racing. So, you know, people need to remember that is a possibility and kind of roll with the punches a little bit more.
Right. That's 100% said. I just remember being laid off of work and not being able to get to a racetrack. That's what I remember. So definitely not trying to live that back down, you know, kind of go through that all over again. I very much so appreciate my ability to go to a racetrack and escape the rest of the world. I don't know if you guys feel the same way I feel, but when I'm at a racetrack, I feel 1,000 times better no matter what's going on. I could be losing every single round. It really doesn't matter. I feel a whole lot better than I would just sitting at home or having the TV on with some news on or something like that. Anyway, old news. Scott Pearley. I'm not sure if we're going to make it to PRI this year, man. There's just a lot going on this winter that may keep the both of us away from PRI this year, unfortunately. I had a pretty good time last year, which was my first time ever being at PRI in the first place. So, not sure we're going to make it out there this year. I'm pretty sure we'll be well represented, though.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have people out there, that's for sure. It's always a last-minute decision for us to be able to get there or not. It's, you know, we both have young families still. We have a lot going on. I got 2 cars running at any given point. So, and then we just got done building this shop out here. So I have a ton of stuff. I'm so far behind on things right now that I don't think I'm going to make it this year, but in 2025, I'd say we'll be there for sure. So hopefully we see you out there. We got to meet a lot of people out there last year in person that we knew but didn't know in person. So PRI is always a great time. I highly encourage everybody to go out there. If you want to see some stuff that was going on at PRI, we got a ton of interviews on this channel. If you go back to about that time last year, I think we released them from December all the way until March, one a week. We have a lot of interviews, and that's kind of an inside scoop of what you can actually see at PRI the newest, latest, greatest technology, and just go look at those and tell us what you think. But dude, the reason we called this show Stacking the Odds is because we've had something in mind for a while, and it's something that nobody's really talked about on any of these bracket racing podcasts, as far as I'm aware, in depth. And it's racing as a team, because as these mega money races show up, you see a lot of people driving a lot of people's cars. You see a lot of the same people in other people's cars. You see a lot of the same people coming in the same stacker trailer. Teams. You need to start racing these races as teams. And there's reasons for doing it on your own or doing it as a team, but you see a lot more people going to this team aspect of racing. Overkill, one of the first people to really do it. Bloomfield, I think, was before them. But Overkill was one of the first people that really started showing up with like 4 cars with 4 drivers and doubling them all and seeing results from that. So I kind of wanted to get into, why are people doing this now? Because a lot of money to invest up front, especially when you talk, I mean, you talk about cars, drivers, and entries for the year. And then if you're going to bring 4 cars, you have to have a stacker at that point. You actually need one. You need to have somewhere for the drivers to stay, on and on and on. But, this is $1 million operation, bare minimum, whenever you're talking about something to that level. So essentially, why do you think people have gone that route?
That is a wonderful question. But there's a method to the madness, Casey. As one of my kids is wanting a snack here. He's hiding behind me, guys. But there's a method to the madness, Casey. I think that a lot happens in a team format. Number one, I just got done telling you, even with Champ, getting into the big scene, turning on some of those win lights that a lot of people don't always get the ability to turn on at a big event. You're doing it on the top, and you haven't ever done it before or haven't done it often. You gain resilience or confidence. I feel like in a team setting, as you move around the pits, or you maneuver your own pit area with that certain 5 set of dudes or 3 set of guys that just every time you're together, you have a good time. Things go the direction you want them to go. I feel like, Casey, that those things play a pretty big part into finding the proverbial groove that everybody's trying to get in. Number 1, on the tree, but number 2, on the racetrack. And then being able to break down splits and break down passes and margins and what you did wrong with a team of people as opposed to just by yourself, man. I'm going to open up some Wheat Thins. You tell me what you think about that.
I was going to say, y'all never knew that we were actually sponsored by Wheat Thins this whole time, did you? But no, anyway, yeah, exactly. And ultimately, if you talk about just your generic big money race, say there's 400 cars in it or whatever. I did some just basic math. 1 in 400 chance of winning a race, like 0.3%. If you have a single entry and there's 400 entries. So if you double that, obviously your odds double along with it. But if you have more entries in it, the more entries you have, the better your odds increase. Now, the more money you're spending also. However, people can say what they want. Everybody does not have the same opportunity to win any given race. And that's why you see a lot of the big names up in the top a lot of the times, because, for example, how often do you see Corey Galletti lose first round, buy back, lose second round? Extremely rare. And
well,
there's
you have to do it 4 times because he's doubled anyway. So, yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Well, and there's a reason for that. It's because, number 1, he races every single day of his life, seemingly.
Sure.
So just muscle memory type thing. Secondarily, it would not be surprising to think that somebody that practices free throws every single day, they're going to be better at free throws than me. I'm going out there right now, I have a shot at free throw in probably 15 years. So it's, ultimately, everybody doesn't have the same odds of winning the race. So let's just say that 0.3% that you would have or I would have to win that race of 400 cars. Let's say Corey has a 3% chance.
Right.
So now you double him. Now he's 2 entries in that 400 car race.
Right.
Now you put a team together of Corey Galetti's, of Donovan Williams, of, you know, the Williams brothers, Gary and Troy, Jeff, Sarah, you know, Coltrera, on and on and on. You can now all of a sudden get your odds up to where if you're the team owner, you might actually have, rather than having a 1% chance of winning this race as a regular person, you might now have a 7 or 10% chance race to win the race.
Right. Right. Yep. And like you said before, I know it's more money, and that may not be always be the easiest thing for some of us. And mainly we're talking about in that sense somebody who is he hires guns, not the things you shoot, right? I'm gonna put that out there, but drivers that screw the seats, basically, that can get the job done to raise those odds in the first place. You hardly ever see them picking a driver that can't get the job done, which we'll probably get into here in just a little bit on how we think here at Going Bracket Racing they even come up with who they're going to pick in the first place. But yeah, Casey, man, for those who aren't necessarily hired guns, I'm going to keep saying it's always good, especially if during the round you noticed you drove through your converter just a little bit. Maybe you laid over a fin or two in there. It's always better to have 2 or 3 guys in your camp already with you to help you take the joker out and put another one in. That's just the big old what if, right? But it's way more comfortable in teams, no matter if somebody else is entering you or not. That's what I'm getting
Think about this. In the world of mega money racing, let's just take the OG Million, for example. Everybody that's watching this, I guarantee, was all watching the OG Million on Motor Mania TV. At, I believe, 20 cars, there 20 or 21, something like that, there was $550,000 in the pot to split.
Jeez.
And we always talk about the goal at these races anymore is not, I mean, obviously the goal is always to win the race, but the real goal number 1 is to make the split. Now, if you're talking about making the split, your odds increase significantly to only win 6 or 7 rounds versus trying to win 10 or 11.
Right.
So now, if you're talking about having your team in, and now they don't have to win 10 rounds as one person, they now have to get to 6 rounds, maybe 2 of them get to the split. There are some cases where if you had 2 or 3 guys of your team in the split, you could make more money than the guy who runners up. So now not only have you increased your odds of making money, it's not going to be the most money that you could win, but it's going to be to the point now where you've made it to where rather than losing 10 grand, you actually made 7 or 8 grand after paying for all these bills.
Right. And that makes sense too, Casey. I mean, the more you got on the ladder, like you've already said, the more you've got there, the more chance you got at bringing home money. I mean, the odds are definitely good in that matter. And we do see people, I won't name any names, but we know just from looking and watching people jump in and out of everybody else's car, we know for one fact that Sugar Shane Carr probably jumps in anybody's car he wants to. It probably doesn't have a single bill to look at after the fact, right? So we know there's people out here who are actually, I won't say bigwigging it, but playing this role in a sense and entering the best racers that they can. So I can't name any names and I can't really go into what they actually do, but everybody knows that's happening. Everybody knows that it's it does increase the odds. Matter of fact, I kind of don't care if that one person only enters one driver himself. The odds are still better because that same person is going to be entered 4 times. Let alone if you have a team of 4 and you've entered all of them 4 times. You got a really good shot at getting some change back.
I mean, ultimately, anybody on here is going to say if you give somebody 10 chances to pull a slot machine versus 1, you don't want 10? Everybody wants 10, And we're starting to, I always say that the reason I like the single entry races are because you see different people win.
Yep.
I wonder how that's going to work in the future because single entry just means that it's one driver, one car, one entry, but that doesn't mean you can't still come with that same team of people. It's just rather than having, say, if you have 4 cars show up, rather than having 8 entries, you're going to have 4. But that's still 4 times more than your average racer. So at any given point, if you stagger these people, you could have some guy out first. You could have a guy out about in the next, well, let's say there's 400 cars. You have some guy out roughly in 100 pairs, have some guy out in 150, and keep on going back. And you always know what you guys can run, even on those blind runs. So,
sure. Now that's what Al Peevler's actually saying in here too. He just exactly what you just said. He alludes to just a little bit here, talking about how having even 2 cars is an advantage whenever one car runs in front of the other. It's as easy as you stay back a little bit, or a text message if you're a few cars back. Hey, I picked up 2 numbers. Well, if we run together enough, Casey, if you had Old Blue and I had Mo out, and we ran together every single big race that there is, and I sped up 600, I'm pretty sure I could call Casey and be like, hey, man, the weather is super good. The air is super good if you didn't catch it. I picked up 6. You 6,000? No, man, 6 big. And then so that gives you ability to maneuver your strategy right there alone. So that's a good point.
Well, and Al's a perfect example of that, because Al and Blake have run NHRA Top Dragster for a long time, and they're both champions. I don't know if Al's won the big championship trophy yet, but I know Blake has, and I want to say Blake had the opportunity to win the NHRA Top Dragster Championship, World Championship this year too. I don't know if that's completed or not quite yet, but I know he was in the running for it. So we'll see what happens there. But
right,
yeah, man, especially when you're talking about these blind first rounds, which that was something also with the FTR race that I thought was interesting, is because they had only 250 entries, I'm pretty sure they allowed a time run on the second day. So they raced Friday and Saturday, and they had a time run both days. And I really liked that. And it worked out good for us, because I told Dylan to make a jet change late that night. And I said, man, this thing's varying too much. We need to change the jets in it. If he didn't have a time run, I don't know what the plan was. I was going to tell him to do it anyway. But either way, he had the time run, so he made the jet change, and look how it worked out for him, so.
Welcome back, George Hoff. It wouldn't be a show without you chiming in with kind of the duh moments. He says if your car picks up more than a few thousandths, you need to go back to the drawing board. Yeah, man, I don't know if that's 100% true. You'll lose a few thousandths just in the track alone, bro. So, I mean, if I look at my graph, I think you're right to an extent. But that's not always the case, is all I got to tell you. Especially up in the mountain. Is that true in the mountain, George? When that rain comes through up there at Bristol, and all of a sudden you get a little bit more humid than normal? Bet you lose more than a couple thou at that race. Anyway, Casey, man, keep moving. Hey, keep moving.
Man, that was one thing that I always hated about the big races more than anything, was the blind first rounds. I never was a fan of that. I don't know. I guess I'm never a fan of when they have, 700 cars anyway. It's just too much sitting around, and it leaves too much opportunity to the teams to be able to dominate those particular races, at least in the early rounds, not necessarily in the later rounds, but definitely in the early rounds, where it's going to be potentially 6-7 hours between rounds.
I actually prefer a team at those races, to be honest with you, or at least a group of people that I'm pitted with. We pit strategically to where it's all closed off. If we want to make a circle, it doesn't matter. You're basically hogging up all the spots you would have had anyway. But pitting in a way to where you can easily bounce in between trailers and not have to go so far, or whatever the case may be. It just makes it those 7 hours, and I've done this, it makes those 7 hours go quite a bit faster. But you're right, Casey, it is pretty well run first round and treat it like it's the next day to get the second round or the buyback.
Interesting question over here in the YouTube chat. Fishmaster Dan, why don't more people use fuel injection? And I can tell you the answer to that is no other reason than it's really expensive. That's why, because I can tell you right now, the Chevelle would have injection on it, but it's to get fuel injection, if you're starting from scratch, $10,000.
Which
So
one? What are we
that's why
talking about though? Mechanical or just regular? You know, the new FTI, all the new
real
stuff. Say it again.
EFI,
EFI.
real
I got you.
EFI,
Yeah,
real
shoot.
fuel injection,
Yeah.
like all the
Yeah.
fancy stuff. And it's because to have fuel injection, first of all, you need a computer, you need an ECU, you need people don't realize this, but it's not just injectors and ECU, it's injectors, ECU, you need coil on plug, you need new spark plug wires, you need some sort of way to get the spark. Now you have a distributor hole, you got to plug the distributor hole, you got to have a cam sync. Like it goes on and on and on and on, and it just adds up, and it's just far too expensive for bracket racing. That's the reason.
Now, if you're talking about regular mechanical fuel injection, I think there's more out there than what you expect. You know, the Ron system kind of paved the way and showed a lot of people, hey, here's some more horsepower for not really that much money, just by going to a Ron's fuel injection, you know, mechanical fuel injection system in the first place. So if you're speaking along those lines, there's more of it out there than you think. I think is the answer to that one. But if it's Casey's line, it's definitely for most of us bracket racers, I would say probably 1% have the ability to spend whatever they want to spend in this sport. So money is definitely a factor.
There's a very good chance that a fuel injection system, and then I forgot the throttle body, which is the most basic thing, which is going to be billet and everything anymore. But I forgot that. And when you add all that stuff up, to get fuel injection on a bracket car is going to be more expensive than your average foot brake car just for the fuel injection system. And that's the reason.
And that makes perfect sense too.
Interesting question though, because ultimately I'd love to have that and mess around with it.
Right.
It's just too expensive right now. Maybe one day it'll be cheaper and we can get something to mess with.
Right. So hang in there, guys. You know how we do it. We're running up on that good time where we give our marketing partners a good chance to get some words in to you. We're going to come back and continue the conversation, maybe get off on a few more tangents. That's just what we do around here at GBR. Feel free to chime in, because that's how we get on those tangents in the first place, is by reading your comments in the chat. If you're watching out in the podcast world, thank you for being with us. Be safe out there on the roads. If you're just chimed into YouTube and you're trying to watch us and drive at the same time, that's a no-no. That's a no-no. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top-selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177.
TSR Racing Products has everything you need to make your Power Glide Turbo 350, Turbo 400, and 727 transmissions the best they can be on the street or at the track. With exceptional products, customer service, and over 30 years of experience, TSR Racing Products is always available to help their customers with any of their transmission needs. In-house machining ensures you only receive the best products from TSR Racing. Visit TSR Racing Products at tsr-racing.com or give them a call at 800-394-5889.
Innovation never sleeps at Proform, and we're making our popular Black Race Series carburetors even better by adding new features that will set them apart from the competition. Some of the newest features include a newly designed main body with contoured Venturas for better airflow, and a new inside and outside two-step down leg boosters for increased atomization and better throttle response. Also, newly designed fuel bowls with increased internal baffling for better fuel control and the lower fuel ramp for reduced turbulence. There are also some new upgrades to point out. The fuel bowls now both include nitrofill floats, and the throttle base plate now has slab shafts for better airflow. These new features, combined with the fully adjustable high-flow main body with screw-in air bleeds, billet metering blocks, high-performance billet throttle base plate, and aluminum fuel bowls with sight glass windows, makes for a great street strip carburetor that packs a punch.
All All right. Welcome back. Going Bracket Racing, episode 175. Can't be brought to you in part by Team 14 Motorsports. Those guys at Syntex Printing over there. Ken Jones Performance, best alcohol carburetor on the market, by the way. TSR Racing Products, Proform Parts, Crew Chief Pro. He's still running that special, I believe, guys. I know he's out there in Vegas, I do believe, right now for a national event out there. So if you need anything while he's out there, you better get a hold of him. You heard it here first. I think he made a post earlier. Driven Racing Oil. Got to get that good stuff in that motor. Keep that oil life good. Go ahead over there, Driven. Use the code GBR10 like Casey always tell you at the beginning of the show there. So big news coming out of Driven too that we'll announce later on in the year. But BRG Motorsports 3D printed parts that probably make you anything what you want. Whatever you need, whatever dimensions, you just got to send it to him and he can get it made for you. So don't hesitate to give him a call. 8th Mile Apparel, get you some of that GBR swag. Represent at the racetracks. You need some logos, you got to holler at us. Things of that nature. And those guys over at Your Ad Here, man, that's Casey and George. I tell you what, they do a good job of marketing, getting your product out to the GBR Going Bracket Racing community at whatever facet it may take us to do it in. Be podcast, be video, Facebook, YouTube, whatever the case may be. If you're looking to get your product seen into the bracket racing industry, head up Casey and George at goingbracketracing@gmail.com. Casey, let's get back off into it, man. We were having a real good conversation. We got off on a tangent a little bit about fuel injection, which in actuality probably does need to be in bracket racing just a little bit more. It just costs a lot of money. But let's continue our thoughts, Casey, on the strategy behind picking who you're going to put in a race. A lot of times, I think I probably alluded to this in one of 175 episodes. We have the ability to make a digital resume for our case when it comes to being selected to be a hired gun in the first place. I think a lot of it plays the part of just showing up at the track and being in the right place at the right time as well. But Casey, man, let's get off into how you can get noticed in the first place. This is definitely just going to be a few thoughts we have that could be possible. What you got, Casey?
I mean, obviously, number one way to get noticed is start winning races in your own car. That's number one. Number two would be probably just hanging around the track after. Even if you sucked, lost first round, lost second round, hanging out with the right people and just talking to the right people and going to maybe a pit party and hitting the practice tree. I mean, your big break can come in 1,000 different ways. You just need to be ready for the opportunity at any given point. And you never know who can show up either. So you want to always keep that in mind, because it might not be who you're around right now, might not be who's showing up, and they might not agree with whatever it is you're doing at the time. So if you're one of those people that wants to see, if you're one of those people that wants to go racing and see what can become of it, then you need to conduct yourself in a way that somebody who sees you is going to say, okay, it's 2 a.m. We're getting ready to call for time runs at 8. Is this guy even going to be ready to get in the car?
Yeah, it's true. And I think after you get that particular seat, you may have to calibrate yourself, because they're still going to want you to be out and about with them. At least some of them. I can name maybe Gage Birch. I've never seen Gage Birch out and about at a race. That's just me. But sometimes I like even myself to go and lay it down for the night, especially if my kids or my wife's there with me. I'm not gonna be out too late, guys. I'm getting old. I just turned 40, for crying out loud.
I got an interesting thing off topic over here in the YouTube chat. Dion Brooks says, this may sound like an ignorant question, but why are timing curves allowed in bracket racing but traction control isn't? And the reason for that is because a timing curve would be pre-programmed and traction control would be an active traction control, which would actually be outlawed, because yes, they are essentially utilized for the same thing, but basically in bracket racing, something that is pre-programmed, such as a timing curve that would say pull 6 degrees for 2 seconds and then come back in, it's always going to pull 6 degrees for 2 seconds. It's not going to pull 6 degrees, realize, oh crap, the car's slowing down, and throw it in at 1 second instead of 2 seconds.
Yep.
Or jump the timing up like a traction control can. So that would be the answer to that question. But anyway, back to back to the topic, strategy. I know that you had mentioned that there were strategies involved when we first came up with the idea of this topic a few weeks ago, which, you would be, if you're entering 5 cars, there's got to be some sort of strategic advantage to doing so versus just saying, I got 5 entries when everybody else has 1.
Right.
So strategy, let's just talk about that. What do you think about that?
Right. And we can take this into the team's event of bracket racing as well, I think, Casey, because I think there's relevance in that too. There's just strategy to it. If you noticed our thumbnail on YouTube, it was just a chessboard with a GBR logo in the middle of it. Well, there's just a lot of strategy to playing chess. You don't want to get hit by fool's mate and 5 moves you can't move no more. I think it's 5 moves you're done. It's checkmate, right? Well, there's a strategy to this game too. I do believe so, Casey, man. And it all goes back to what you mentioned in the first place. We have racers out here who win at a high clip. They win a lot. They win a lot a year. Even if they're already hired, and even if they weren't already hired, they'd still be winning. That's the key the first part of the strategy, in my opinion, is that alone. Okay. Secondly, that person has a friend that he hangs around who probably hung around long enough to get an opportunity to be in that group. Those are the 2 things I'm going to mention right off the bat, Casey, and just see what you think about those.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said there as far as just putting yourself in the right place at the right time type thing, and having somebody who clearly, if somebody hangs around a certain person enough, or like they grow up together or whatever, whoever is, whoever this guy who's winning, like whoever Gage Birch's best friend is, which I'm pretty sure is Matt Daddis. But the fact of the matter is, Gage Birch, Matt Daddis, you see them in the other lane, good chance they're winning type thing. So the point is people run all in the same circles. They know the same stuff. That's all they talk about. That's how they get good. If we're talking about creating teams, which let's just talk about that, because I know that's something everybody obviously wants to get into.
Sure.
But on the strategy aspect, before we start naming people's names, there, in my mind, are Hail Mary drivers, and there are consistent drivers. And what I mean by that is there are drivers who you see go destroy everybody and beat their heads into the ground and win the whole race, or they don't get out of second round. And that's a Hail Mary driver. A consistent driver would be someone that you see constantly showing up in 5th or 6th round. I'll give you 2 examples of those people. And I don't mean this as a negative, and I hope they wouldn't take it as a negative, because they're both great drivers, and that is the reason why they're even included in this. I feel like Jeff Serra is a Hail Mary driver. He is either going to absolutely destroy you, or he is going to be red in 3rd round and not be heard from again the rest of the race. A consistent driver, probably the very best consistent driver, is Jeff Verdi. Jeff Verdi is going to go out there. He's going to be roughly 15, 20 total every single time. And if you miss the tree one time, now you better be dead on with a 1 or a 2, because Jeff Verdi is going dead on. Jeff Verdi is going to be 10 or better, and he is going to go dead on. And you better get inside of it. And if you can, you're going to beat him, but he's going to be on that number every single time. And that's why you always see him late at these big races.
True.
But you see Jeff Serra, last comment, you see Jeff Serra, the reason I said that about him, if the light turns green, he's 5 or better on average, Right. And that's the reason he can hold so much, because if he beats you on the tree, as long as he takes less than what he beats you by, he's going to win every single race. And Jeff Serra is one of the best finish line drivers that's ever raced, ever.
Yep. And that's why if I stick, and I'm going to stick to it, guys, so I hope some of you guys play chess or know something about chess. Jeff Serra would be my knight. And knights move in L shapes, so they have the ability to check the king as well as take another piece off the board in the same move. Boom, that quick. So Jeff Serra is so versatile that he can check you here and then make you do something ignorant down there. So it is a Hail Mary, But man, when he throws 2 Hail Marys and they actually land, it's not a Hail Mary anymore. You guys are in deep trouble. Deep trouble, okay? If he lands a couple of knockout punches on you and he sees them land, he don't got to throw Hail Marys no more. He's in the zone. The Hail Mary's over. It's like Tom Brady picking apart a zone at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to say too, depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
What is better? Because I feel like in scenarios like the Vegas Fling, Hail Mary driver, usually the best scenario. But perfect example, consistent driver, Luke Bogacki, Hail Mary driver, Jeff Serra, finals of the Spring Fling Million in Vegas, the beginning of this year. So is either one just as good? But again, when Jeff Serra leaves the starting line, if it's green, he's slaughtering you usually. Yep. Like he's not beating you by a couple thou. He's destroying you. I mean, it's crazy.
And I'm gonna keep going though, because you got to give me my rook. They can move forward or sideways, just straight or sideways, right? I have to be in front of him, and that's Matt Dattis. He's going to consistently knock the tree over and consistently get back to his dial in, unless you're just not there, and then he's gonna be one above, and he's gonna dink you to death. If you miss it just a little bit, he dinked you. If you didn't get down there on him, he's just gonna back into you, make you think you got it, but you don't. That's my thought process on Dattis. It's a very, very, I'll call it methodical approach to the game. I'm gonna knock you over on the tree, and then I'm just gonna treat you wrong at the finish line. He doesn't carry what seems to be a ton with him like a Jeff Serra would. That's kind of the Hail Mary thought to Jeff Serra. The guy will hold a 10th if he wants to, right? But he's just tricky. He's very, very tricky, man. And you better catch it coming, otherwise you're gonna get taken.
To have someone that was racing this weekend at Galat, Peter Biondo. I don't even know what to call him. I think he's like both. He's like a Hail Mary consistent guy because, dude, me and Adam were looking at the numbers on Biondo, and I'm like, man, he's ran within 3,000 these last couple times. And then we started looking into it, and he's like, I think he can go 79, but he's dropped it and gone 82 3 times in a row, with the high being a 7 and the low being a 2. Wow. 3 rounds in a row.
Wow.
So, but again, going back to you got to beat your opponent on the tree, going back to you got to know what the car's running, going back to the car's got to be, arguably one of the best cars at the track, because to hold, you have to know what you are holding. Number one. That's the number one rule. You cannot get rid of something if you don't know that's what you got to get rid of.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So, ultimately that would be someone else that I would say is top tier as far as who you would want on your team for sure.
So basically, and not
for strategy.
Basically, and just keeping it chess, and Nova fan called me a nerd. I know I'm a nerd. It is what it is. I do everything nerd like. I know I embraced it a long time ago. But anyway, you're basically this is just in chess pieces. You're calling Peter Biondo the queen, Casey. It can do anything on the chessboard, forward, backwards, front. It doesn't matter what you want to do. You can do it with the queen. Basically, you would almost be saying Peter Biondo is quote unquote GOAT of racing.
Peter Biondo's playing chess and everybody else playing checkers.
Yeah, I can agree with that 100%, man. 100% I can agree with that. Well, what seemed to me, I turned on Motor Mania just for a little bit. It was just such a busy weekend. I couldn't just sit there like I normally would and watch some drag racing, but seemed like he struggled early or he gave it back early. And then all of a sudden he found the spots. Because obviously if he's doing what you say he's doing, he's spot dropping out there somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's 1,000 ways to get rid of it. I mean, ultimately, you could be getting rid of it while you're going, but you always got to remember, there's more than one way to get rid of it. You can get rid of it all at once. You can get rid of it a little bit at a time, which is probably the smarter way if you're ahead of them. But you got to know what you're getting rid of, where you're getting rid of it, and not get caught up in the race. And Peter Biondo is probably the best at it. But when you're assembling a team, you have to think about a few aspects. Number one, you got to think about who's going to get my money back. for example, a local racer out here, that'd be Eric Amon. You know, Eric Amon is always going to go deep. He's your Jeff Verdi of local racers out here.
Gotcha.
He's always going to get you your money back, or maybe go a little further, and then he'll win a race, you know, time to time.
Right.
But he's always going to be deep.
Right.
And so you need someone like that. You need someone like Jeff Serra, who's going to potentially win the whole race, but could also go out early. And then you need someone like Peter Biondo that can pull up against anybody and just go out there and just bam, 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 package race people.
Yep.
Can package race people if he wants to, can spot drop people if he wants to, can I'm sure there's nitrous on that car. I'm sure he can spray if he wants to. And so then let's say you have one more spot. What type of person do you put in that spot? Do you put another Jeff Serra in, and now you're making your odds to where you could have both of them out early?
What in some way, shape, or fashion, and most of bracket racing is probably made up of this style of racer, in my opinion. Dial the car what you think it's going to run and hold it to the wood and hit the tree. I feel like somebody out there is doing that, regardless if we know it or not. The car's going to run the number to a couple of thou, maybe 5 thou off or under. Hopefully, they're dead on and hitting the tree. I feel like the person who is able to do that consistently always has the upper hand, unless their own self gets in the way. They didn't execute their plan. You look back and Pete Biondo ain't getting there, and all of a sudden he does get on the gun. Now he's getting there, but you didn't started lifting at 500 feet thinking you had him, and he sprayed you, and that wasn't your game plan in the first place. I feel like the person who dials it to run dead on and hits the tree and can complete that is the missing link on a team, in my opinion, because it's made. Bracket racing is made up of the majority of that. Not everybody can hold 2 numbers and then successfully get rid of 2 numbers. Not everybody can hold 1 number, Casey, and get rid of it successfully. You know what I mean? So I think you got to have one. You got to have one guy.
Ultimately, you got to be able to play within your skill set. And there are people who will never have that skill set. There are people who don't ever desire to have certain skill sets and win just as much as anybody.
But can we name anybody that we think dials their car, hits the tree, they're just ahead on the tree so often that it makes finish line driving that much easier, even if they don't have anything in their pocket? Do we have anybody?
Or negligent, like where it doesn't really matter. You don't need to.
I don't have to. I can just run it out the back door. And you know that saying, the more you take, the more you make? I don't know how true that is all the time.
I don't know if that works in bracket racing.
I don't know how true it is. I hear a lot of announcers saying it, but there's a driver out there that drives just like that, man. He's out there. I know it, and he's good too, and he's tough to build because his car is good. He's ran so many times with it full throttle. It's easy to predict.
Yep, I know a lot of the older crowd, like the 70-year-old and up now crowd. I know there's a lot of old guys that have been running the same car for 20, 30 years.
How do you think Daddy Folk is driving?
I don't know.
He's a tricky man. He's tricky, ain't he?
Yeah, I think he can do a little bit of everything. But, man, there's a guy out here, car says Lumberjack on the side. And he's been driving that same car since the 80s.
Wow. Huh.
And I don't know if he used to be a stocker or whatever. I'm sure if it's that old, it probably was at one point. But, people like that. You mean to tell me that someone like that's driving the same car with reasonably the same combination for all those years, you don't think they know what's going on? They don't need to hold numbers because they know what the weather's doing. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the best package wins. And at the end of the day, if you know that you're going to hit the tree 8 out of 10 times and you know what your car's going to run 8 out of 10 times, why are you going to hold numbers on the off chance you miss the tree?
Right. I almost think, Casey, that is the ace in the hat. That is the deadliest weapon in this sport. You don't have to do anything. The only thing you have to do is keep yourself disciplined enough not to look in the other lane and get tricked out of what you were trying to do in the first place. Everybody's done it to some extent. Everybody's been tricked. Okay, it's happened. You gave back just this much because you thought you were that much in front. Hey.
you got to watch the old guys, man, because what you don't remember, what people are going to realize once I say this, and I don't know how many of you are young guys that are watching, but all you old guys are going to understand. And me and George, we're getting more in the middle of the range now. I've been racing since I was 10 years old, and now I'm getting up towards the 40 range or whatnot. So the thing that a lot of people don't understand as far as the young guys go is those old guys don't care. They've already been there, done that, win races. They don't care about that. That's not affecting their self-esteem. They're just happy to be there. And ultimately, if they win, it just makes them happier every single round because they're doing what they want to do. They're still doing it, and they're beating all these young guys. And these young guys really care. They want to win bad.
That's right.
Because they haven't done it yet, or they haven't done it enough. The old guys are just out there having fun for a hobby. So the most dangerous person at the track is those old guys in those old cars that they've been racing for 25 years, and you better believe that.
Yep. Brian Cook says Steve Pearson, and I know you know who that is. Boy, he will knock you off the face of the racetrack in a heartbeat.
I want to say that Steve Pearson's Vega might be one of Warren Johnson's old pro stock cars from back in the day.
Right. Or Todd Hansen for that matter. Yep. I remember Todd Hansen from like the late 80s, like 88 and 89. That was the best wheelie car at the racetrack. So of course I remember a wheelie. I mean, come on, man.
Radical Rich used to always say, "Wheelie, wheelie, Todd Hansen."
Wheelie. But hey, man, I guess in conclusion here, before we make that drawing known, Casey, man, is there's a lot of strategy to it, and I think that it's not always what we expect it to be. Why a driver is actually being selected to be a hired gun. I definitely feel like it's right place, right time. I feel like I've been in the right place in the right time and just didn't have what I needed to compete before. That's what makes me say it. You brought it up, Casey, man. You're at a trailer, you're hitting a Christmas tree, and somebody sees you knocking it over. I mean, knocking it plumb over, but you don't have the ability. That's the type of situation that'll put you in hired gun land. We have a lot of practice tree races ahead of these big events nowadays, right? You walk up in one of those practice tree races and you see a lot of people in there, man. They're always there having fun, hitting a practice tree, maybe having an adult soda or two, you know what I mean? And you're going to be in front of a big group of people. I would tell anybody who's at the racetrack who doesn't even race yet, or you want to race and you got a helmet, a fire suit, and a license, you just don't have a car, go compete in that practice tree race and see how far you get from there. That's all I got, man. If you show you're behind in that, you mess around be screwing somebody's seat with that behind the next day.
Thomas Davis won our tree chopper shirt at the Morton Brothers practice tree race, which they're going to have again. I'm sure they're going to have that again.
Right.
But yeah, Thomas Davis was in the finals at Fletcher's race this last weekend. So that tells you right there all you need to know about what you were just saying.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But,
Casey, man, it's pro form time, dude. Who we sending something out to?
So the winner of the Proform High Torque Mini Starter, ProformParts.com. Everybody visit that. Thanks to Proform for doing all these giveaways to all of our fans. Absolutely free. All you got to do is click subscribe on the YouTube channel and you're automatically entered into all of these giveaways. We got 2 more for the end of the year, but the High Torque Mini Starter was won by Camden Green, YouTube name Green Racing 2. You won the starter. Get your information over to us on the Facebook page. Just message us, message Going Bracket Racing on the Facebook page with your address and application, or send us an email always at goingbracketracing@gmail.com. Anybody in there, if you got any suggestions for topics, anything you want to talk about on the show, we're always welcoming topics. We always are looking for something to talk about. So we'll talk about it in an upcoming episode, or if you got anybody that you want to maybe have on the show, get their word out. I'll also obviously send us an email, get at us on the Facebook page, but more importantly, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can be like Camden Green, win yourself some parts. So thank you to Proform Parts for another great giveaway. We got 2 more. We'll announce the new giveaway next week on next week's show, so you got to tune in. You got plenty of time to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I see there's several of you on YouTube right now. So if you click that subscribe button, you will be entered. I think we have a dial bore gauge to give away, and I think we have one of those really nice big billet degree wheels for degreeing your cams in, degreeing whatever you need. So anyways,
Hey,
yeah, needless to say, this time change got me screwed up. I'm getting tired already.
Fishmaster Dan makes a really good point, Casey. We might have to hold that into consideration when we have another show. Basically saying track conditions force the honest dialer to hold. We can talk about that maybe on episode 176. Who knows? We'll figure out. Me and Casey put our heads together. Generally, we don't come with any type of. We come with a basis of what we're going to talk about, and maybe we'll just throw that in there. But guys, man, we can't thank you enough for being part of the GBR community. Going Bracket Racing has come a long way. It's because of people like you guys who are on there and just chiming in. Maybe you're listening on the podcast form. Maybe you might just send us an email. We get those emails, we read those emails, and I can promise you it's either me or Casey who responds to those emails. It's not a robo dialer. We ain't that big, for crying out loud, but thanks for being part of the community and chiming in with us, guys. We'll see you guys on next Tuesday. It's getting cold outside already, so you never know. That old winter series will be rolling in here in a little bit. Hang in there. Be safe.